Hi, I'm Crystal the Cottage Witch, and today we will be making ritual chalk. Filming this video before I filmed the intro because I was like, I gotta make chalk. So I was in my kitchen, so I didn't have an intro. So I'm making it now. But ritual chalk has a lot of uses. This comes in handy if you have like a slate or anything like that on your altar where you change your symbols and your sigils that you work with, as well as when you work outside. So if you were to work outside, you could actually physically draw the circle around you, or as well as anything that you're trying to conjure or push away. For this video, I'm going to be making banishing chalk because it's the phase of the moon that we're in right now. So I'm going to be adding a little bit of burnt charcoal that I had burnt sigils for banishing with herbs on top of that as well. That way the banishing properties are imbued in that. Now you don't have to do that. You could just use the basic recipe, which is just ground up eggshells. If you have cascarilla powder, perfect. You just need some ground eggshells, some flour, and a little bit of warm water. Now, if you wanted to have a little bit of an extra protection boost, like if you were making this chalk for protection, you could add in a little bit of red brick dust because that'll still work as like a type of chalk. Or you could leave the recipe as is. And you could always add in food coloring if you wanted to too. So grab some eggshells, grab some flour, grab some warm water, and let's make some ritual occult chalk. Welcome to my very messy kitchen. I didn't know I was going to do this video until when I decided to make the chalk, so it's not spotless, but this is real life, right? Okay, to make this chalk, sorry, you're on my windowsill instead of using a tripod. So like I said, the landscaper peeps are outside, so I don't want to have like this contraption in the window. But what you're going to need is a bunch of eggshells. So if you have cascarilla powder, you're already there. You know, because we need the eggshells ground into a fine, fine powder. So I use my mortar and pestle, and then afterwards, I put them in a blender. I have a special blender that I use just for magical things when I'm making incense. Some people use a food processor. Some people use a coffee grinder. I have a little blender that I use just for witchcraft purposes, same as I have a coffee pot that I have for witchcraft purposes. That way I could brew floor washes in it with some herbs that aren't food safe. The other thing that we're going to need is some flour and some really warm water and some paper towels. Now you could choose to mold your chalk, like if you want to put it in some silicone molds. I normally just shape it and wrap it. And then mine for banishing, I'm going to be taking a burnt piece of charcoal that I had burnt some banishing herbs on, and I had put some banishing incense on and stuff, and I'm going to be mixing that in with the chalk. That way my chalk will also be a darker color as well as have that banishing properties. Now, if you were just using regular ritual chalk, you could just stick with the flour and the eggshells and just leave it as is. Or like I was saying before, if you have like a little bit of red brick dust, put that in, or polarize a red brick just so you know you have some of that in there. Or you could take some burnt charcoal with some herbs that match your intent and put that in there. But again, you want to use just a little bit because this is homemade chalk, so it's not going to be like pretty. It's going to be lumpy, but you know what? It's homemade and it's made with love. So I'm gonna go get my ingredients right about now. As soon as I start dancing, a neighbor walks past my window. All right, let's just get started, right? Since I make my eggshells in bulk, I normally save a giant thing of them. This is an old peanut butter jar. And like I said, I have a special blender used just for making incense blends and herbs. This still has a little bit of incense powder and resins from a banishing incense. So it's like I knew I was going to make the chalk, so I didn't bother rinsing it out just again because I'm going to be using it for the same purposes. So if you're making the eggshell chalk, normally you want like around 6 whole eggs. I make mine in bulk, so I'm just going to be putting a decent amount in here. And also making sure that there's enough. You could already see that chalk dust going. You can wear a mask if you want, just so you're not getting like all the ick bit. And then I had already broken up my charcoal once it had died. So I'm going to be putting in just a wee bit of that. just enough to color it. Mix it all up in there. It's very messy, but I feel like if you're naturally not a messy person, you wouldn't really be into witchcraft, so I feel like most of you guys don't care that it's messy. Alright, let's blend! Alright, so now you want to take, again, I'm making a bigger one, so you can normally use like a teaspoon or half a tablespoon of flour. I'm just putting it in one of my little containers that I use to make my candles, just so it's easier for me to get out, because afterwards you're going to want to mold it with your hands. I have my teapot going on in the background, because then afterwards you want to add in just a little bit of hot water. That way everything can kind of like mold in and mix in together. All right, time to add the warm water. I got my little mixing spoon. That way I can mix it in. Again, you want to add in just about a teaspoon with the flour first to make that into a paste before we add in the eggshells, and then we're going to mix that all in together. See how it's all crumbly? Sorry, I'm using natural light. Like I said, my tripod's in the other room. You want it kind of crumbly, because afterwards we're going to mush it together. And then while you're mixing it, since I'm doing banishing, I'm going to be mixing mine counterclockwise. You don't have to do any of this. But if you wanted to say any chants or any intentions that you have for the chalk while you're mixing it, now would be the time. You know, while even with the base, with the flour. I love that smell. It reminds me of old school Play-Doh. I know that sounds so weird. You know, but if you're mixing it in, you could do like a very, very simple one. Since mine's in a circular container, what I could say is something for banishing to like push away. Thrice around, the circle's bound. Sink all evil beneath the ground. Thrice around, the circle's bound. Sink all evil beneath the ground. Thrice around, the circle's bound. Sink all evil beneath the ground. That's just one example of something that you can do or say while making the base of your chalk. Now comes time to add in your eggshells. How well you can see that. I didn't add too much charcoal. You could add in as much charcoal as you want to make this a black chalk, but I just added in a little bit. Same thing, you're going to want to add in about a tablespoon of your eggshells in with a tablespoon of your flour to your teaspoon of hot water. I want to do like a teaspoon and a half, depending if you like over measured. All right, now comes time for the half a teaspoon to add back in. Oh no, there was a lot of water. Oh no, oh no. Accidentally added in a lot. That's all right, we'll make it work, right? Now, like if you don't have a blender or if you don't have a mortar and pestle, another thing that you could do to quickly like pulverize your eggshells is put them in a Ziploc baggie and beat the crap out of them with a rolling pin. Or, you know, rock or a can or anything else like that. You don't have to use a blender and you don't have to use a mortar and pestle, but you want the eggshells into as fine as a powder as you want, because otherwise the chalk is going to be lumpy and it's not going to hold together as well. And you want to make sure that the chalk is at least holding together nicely. And like I said, if you already have cascarilla powder, you are already there. So I added a little bit too much water in mine, but can you see how it's kind of like sticking together? You want it a little bit more crumbly than this. However, I don't want to add in any more flour or eggshells just in case like I keep messing with it. And I could work with this for now, but you can see, even though I try to grind up the eggshells as much as I can, you can still see some of the lumps of it, and that's fine. You know, it just won't look perfect. looks like Play-Doh, and it's like that funky texture. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take some of it into your hands. Oh yeah, it's like a cement texture. Whoa. I know it looks really interesting. It feels really cool though. When you use like the really hot water, it really does help like cement everything in there together. Da-da-da. I'm using natural lighting instead of a tripod, so I know it looks funky. But you're going to take it into your hands and you're going to shape it. I'm going to be doing this on the counter though. You're going to want to shape it, squish it into your hands. Like I said, since mine's really wet, mine's going to take a few days to dry. But I want it to be like as even as possible, as much as I can make it. I might have to make it into like a little bit of a chunky boy just to make sure that it doesn't fall apart. So like I said, I added a bit too much water. So then after we make the shape of our chalk, like I said, you can stick it in like little molds. That's the shape of my chalk. You're going to put it in the paper towel and you're going to roll it up super duper tight. That way, one, it also shapes it, and two, it also absorbs all that extra moisture. So it's in a nice little tube like this, and I'm going to put it on the windowsill above me to dry. This is the one that gets the most light. And I'm going to do the same with my other pieces. Now, once you're done with that, it normally takes about 3 days to dry, and you want to leave it in a bright, sunny window. Again, you could leave it out during the moon phases too, like leave it out there 24/7. That way it has the properties of the sun to blast out anything, again, if you're making banishing, or to bring in happiness, as well as the moon phases above it to either push things away or draw things into you. Because then you could use it, like you could add a little bit of green food coloring and make it during a new moon, or start it on a Thursday in the hour of Jupiter, and you can make, money manifesting chalk. That way, whenever you're outside, you could surround yourself with your sigils of everything. There's so many different uses for it. But I'm going to show you what that looks like and how it works after it's dry, and it's going to be a different day. So I'm probably going to be looking like a bum. All right, it's now a different day. I have my chalk right here. I don't have a microphone plugged in, so hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to unwrap it from the paper towel. Oh, it's a wee bit crumbly because I made this in a rush since I was filming. There is our chalk. Like I said, this is very rough, so it's not pretty. So I just have like a rock right here. I'm literally doing this in the most awkwardest angles. But, as you can see, here's our ritual chalk. I'm going to try and do a design on this side. That way, like you guys could actually see it. I'm not going to do it outside on my sidewalks because we're not supposed to do sidewalk chalk art. It was actually a notice that was sent out because a lot of the kids, they have chalk and they play on the sidewalks with it. And my complex wanted to fine the people $150 for the kids playing with chalk. It washes off in the rain. Like, I understand. This is a very light rock, so it's not going to be like the same as drawing on concrete. But anyway, like, I understand if they were drawing, like, obscenities. Like, if they're just like, here's, like, it's not hopscotch. Here's, like, hopping, something like that. But no, they were just kids. Just doing chalk outlines of people and things. So yeah, it's a little random symbol. Like I said, it would work better outside, but you could use this for your rituals when you're outside. You could do this if you have cement underneath your doormat. You could do your own sigils and rituals that way too, and that way you make your own chalk. Ta-da!
I hope you have a good day and good things happen to you. Thanks for watching.